Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. Real quick, I'm gonna just talk a little bit here. The reason that we're here for this live stream, it's a midday live stream right before 2 o'clock, but today was gonna be the day I was gonna do my live stream anyway. Normally I do it at night, but this evening I have other things happening, so I'm having kind of a midday live stream here. So hopefully people are still able to make it to it. That would stink if they're not able to, but hey everybody. Prince's Friend here, exploring music through Prince. I'm having a good day so far, but what ended up happening was, and that's what this video is going to mostly be about. I know my normal live stream is usually just like a Q&A and whatever, and I did that last month, but this month we're actually going to talk about the full tribute. I've already seen some people pop up in the comments over here, and they're saying, "Oh, what about Usher?" And they're talking about Usher. Okay, so that was the preview to the tribute, right? So that was them kind of showing you, hey, this is what you're gonna get. And again, I even said in the video, I was like, okay, this it could be good. We'll have to see what we end up getting. So we did end up having that already. I already did a video on that. It quickly, within a day, became my most popular video on my entire channel, which is very weird, as it was just me saying, hey, this is what I thought of that thing that happened on the Grammys. So kind of funny how that happens, but we crossed the threshold of 22,000 subs, so we hit a brand new milestone, and that was our most successful video. So I don't know, this Grammys thing, apparently just talking about it is a big deal, and I think it's because a lot of us are really wondering what they're doing with it, right? So the actual big tribute was filmed on the 28th, so just 2 days ago. So it was filmed, and I got a few little things of just like people talking, and I talked to a couple people who were there. I talked to a couple people who talked to people who were there. I talk to people all the time about all of this stuff, and I heard a bunch of stories about what actually happened at the real thing. Now, just so everybody knows, the big tribute, the Grammy Salute to Prince, that's a 2-hour event, has a ton of all-star names and everything attached to it, and that was recorded on January 28th, but isn't set to air until April 21st. Yes, that's the part also, I'm just going to say that right up front. This is something that it kind of makes me twinge a little bit, that they're like, we're going to record it now, and we're going to show it on the anniversary of his death, the 4-year anniversary of his death. We're going to talk a little bit about why that could be a good or a bad thing, I guess, and we'll have to see what we end up with. But hello to everybody who is showing up. I know that we have 49 people in here now, and again, midday, who knows who's going to show up. I just kind of wanted to talk about this now, though, especially before my kids get home. But yeah, so we'll talk about that just a second here. So I think the first thing I'm going to talk about real quick is, because I'm already seeing people talk about it in the comments here, is yes, there was no Janelle Monáe, no D'Angelo, all of that stuff. Now, this is a conversation that I've had a bunch with people in the comments, where they're like, well, I want to see Lenny Kravitz. He did a great tribute before. Or I want to see Janelle Monáe. And I've been to a Janelle Monáe concert. She essentially does a Prince tribute every night at each of her concerts. But here's the thing. If somebody already did a tribute, they don't need to keep getting invited back for tribute. So D'Angelo did a tribute. Lenny Kravitz did one. Bilal did one already. There's a lot of people who have already done tributes. That's actually why I kind of like this tribute. The idea of this tribute is that these are people who have not necessarily had the chance to do or be part of a full tribute yet. For anybody who is here, don't forget to hit that like button, because from what I've heard, if you hit the like button, it makes it so that the message that this is going on gets to more people. So hit that like button. So anyway, I would have loved to have gone, but I don't even know where the Grammys is filmed or whatever. Who even knows? I would have loved to have seen Beck. I'm seeing Dawn here. Beck would have been great. I wanted to go see Beck. I actually am a big fan of the Foo Fighters. I love her, and there's a bunch of people there that I would have wanted to see. So moving on, I know it did happen, and there's a lot of outlets talking about the events and like the songs and whatnot. So I'm going to go through real quick, and I'm just going to tell you what the layout of the songs were. Thank you very much, Susan, for saying my hair looks nice. I did it just a second ago. See, it's like dry enough that it like bounces around and stuff. So let me bring up the thing here. We're going to show this. Okay. So this is the set list that we got. All right. The show opens with Gary Clark Jr. and H.E.R. doing Let's Go Crazy. John Legend does Nothing Compares to You. Juanes does 1999. Common does something. I don't know what he did. It wasn't listed here. Foo Fighters did Pop Life, and followed by Darling Nikki. H.E.R. did The Beautiful Ones. Miguel does I Would Die for You. Gary Clark Jr. The Cross. Beck does Raspberry Beret. More Stay in the Time, Come On and Do the Bird, and Cool. Earth, Wind, and Fire, who, as far as I heard, is actually just Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind, and Fire. I don't know if it's the whole band, but he gets up there and he does Adore. St. Vincent does Controversy. Susannah Hoff and Chris Martin together do Manic Monday. That was an interesting choice. Revolution comes out and does Mountains. Princess does Delirious. Sheila E. and the Revolution do America, and then Mavis Staples and the Revolution do Purple Rain. The encore is Baby I'm a Star. So I actually really that's the downplay. That's the set list. That's the word I was looking for. So that's the set list, right? That's what everybody saw. What I obviously noticed just from looking right at the songs is that the earliest song is from Controversy, 1981, and the latest song is, I believe, from Sign of the Times, so 1987. That means that this big tribute that's going to be on the anniversary of Prince's death, 4-year anniversary, it's going to be on like one of the biggest, TV outlets for everybody to see, is only covering 6 years of his career. Like, and you can't even say that it's only 80s, right? Because I have a big, you guys know me. I say, hey, it shouldn't only be 80s. And then people go, well, why do you hate the 80s? I say, I don't hate the 80s. I just want it to not only be the 80s. And that's a fine line that people don't seem to really get a lot of the time. But there needed to be more than just 80s. But you can't even say it's the 80s, because it's more just like just this part of the 80s. It's a 6-year span of the 80s. So there's not even any late 80s. There's not even any like early stuff like I Want to Be Your Lover or Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad wasn't even on here. So it just seems really weird why this was the choice here. Now, I was kind of having a couple of conversations with some people, and I was like, like when they do like American Idol and stuff, and they say, oh, you chose your song. Well, it's like, yeah, you chose your song, but they only really gave you a handful of songs to pick from. So it could be something with the estate that maybe they couldn't branch out as far as they would have wanted to, or, whatever. I'm good with that. But going through all of the like news reports and a lot of the outlets that are talking about it is that it seemed like it was not as rehearsed as it needed to be. They had a lot of delays. There were a lot of mistakes. Not everybody seemed to be knowing what was happening. And apparently there were a couple of points where the delays were so, long and it wasn't going so well that people started walking out. So that doesn't mean anything really, because that is also one of the benefits of recording now and putting it out later that's editing. That's time for editing. That's time for you can record offsite and insert. You can put a bunch of stuff together. So there's a lot of different things that you can do in post to make a lot of these things good. I mean, just do the song again, have an extra take. Like you have a take of you there with the audience. Now have a couple of takes of that song like even after the audience has left, just so that they can get a couple cuts. Like, now we have a shot of the drummer, now we have a shot of you. We're going to cut out that part where you messed up, and we're going to put this part in. So you can totally do that. That's, easy to do. And I think that that's going to be to the benefit of the show. And I just want to say, like, the list of talent here is great. There were some people that, I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen more members of the MPG there. I would have liked to have seen more Third Eye Girl people there, anything like that. See, I'm seeing some people saying the same thing over here in the comments. But at the same time, there's not necessarily a call for that if the entire set list is early 80s stuff. So the Revolution was there. You know what? It kind of makes sense that the Revolution was there, because they're the ones that were the band during the time period that all of the songs come from. So, I think that that's, neither here nor there, though. This list, again, I love the performers. Gary Clark Jr. is on there. I love Gary Clark Jr. Really the question here becomes, if you're sticking so close to the 80s, who is this tribute for, right? Because my idea of what a tribute should be is not just, let's sing all of the songs that you're famous for and then move on. A tribute should be something to educate people who aren't in the know about the person that you're doing for. So having it be such a small slice of Prince's career, and again, like, you're leaving out the late 80s, the whole 90s, the Emancipation era, the slave era, you're leaving out all of the musicology years. You're leaving out so much that it seems like you're missing out on a huge part of Prince. So I'm seeing here a lot of people are like, well, it's the masses. They need to do the songs that are popular for the masses. But if you're just going to sing all the songs that all of the people already know, then that doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything to promote Prince's legacy. It doesn't do anything to promote music education or appreciation of his career. It just says, hey, we liked him around this time, so there you go. One thing that I had actually kind of is, I was like, what if your obituary, when it was all written up, was just, hey, I loved it when you won that award when you were 8. And it's just like, but you're not going to talk about, you're not going to talk about all of the things that he did when he was older and wiser, and, he had a job and he had family and all of that stuff. No. He didn't win awards when he was older. He won awards when he was 8. So that's what I'm saying, right? It's like, you're denying an entire, part of his life. And I saw somebody say just real quick in the comments that they're like, hey, I don't really like that, doesn't all have to be deep cuts. You're right. It doesn't all have to be deep cuts. And again, we'll clarify it again. I don't want to get rid of the 80s. I just want to mix in some other things that will give people a clearer vision of what Prince's actual legacy is. So I was kind of mad when I saw it all. and I made like a meme and put it up on my Twitter and my Facebook and my Instagram. If you don't follow any of those, then there you go. But go check those out. But I put it up, and I was like, hey, if all you're going to walk around and say is 80s were the best, 80s were the best, 80s were the best, then what that's doing is it's perpetuating that 80s narrative. So if somebody says, well, the 80s are the best, and you go, oh, well, have you heard much stuff out of the 80s? Most people will go, no, not really. So, and even if they have, they'll say, well, 80s is still the best. And the problem here with this, right, is that the 80s were great. The 80s is where Prince got his stardom. That's where he made his name. That makes a lot of sense. It's a big part of his legacy. But the more people say the 80s were the best, 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 at a certain point, it stops being that one person's opinion and it starts becoming fact. Like I already see some people comment going, but no, sorry, it actually was the best. And it's like, by what metric are you measuring this? Are you measuring it by sales? Are you measuring it by awards? Are you measuring it by creative freedom? Are you measuring it by the music itself? Because here's something I know as somebody who does things, nobody gets worse at doing things the more that they do it. That's just not how stuff works. That's not how doing things work. That's not how life and experience works. You don't become worse at music after doing it for 40 years. So to say that like the 80s was his genius point, that was where, no. It was his most marketed point. That was where the most money was pouring in to put him in most people's ears. And again, that's not to say, if you want to say the 80s is your favorite, that's fine. But to just flat out say 80s were the best, there has to be some sort of rationale, some sort of, because I would never say 90s Prince was the best. I say I like 90s Prince. And actually, I've been listening to a lot more 2000s Prince than even the 90s Prince for a long time here, actually. But anyway, that's neither, I mean, we're kind of just talking in circles here. But that's the problem, though, is that saying that you want more than just the 80s, that's not an indictment of the 80s. That's just saying, I want a clearer, wider picture of what Prince's legacy actually was. So the question then becomes, and I'm going to come back around now because, oh my gosh, I went on a tangent there. Who is this for? It's not for people. It sounds like for me, because here's what a tribute also does, is that you get new people, like the fresh young faces of music. You have them do music of the people who passed away or you're attributing, you're honoring. And what it does is it makes it appeal to the new audiences. Like that's what the whole point is. Usher kind of works there because Usher still appeals to a younger audience. I would say Gary Clark Jr. definitely falls under that. I would say, Miguel 100% does. H.E.R. definitely does. Beck's kind of on the line there. It's not necessarily appealing to, new audiences and whatnot. But like the rest of the people, Sheila, the Foo Fighters, these are all people who are very well established in, the music biz. But they're all kind of on the older side. So it's not going to attract new audiences. It's going to attract the people who are already into them. And that's not saying anything bad about them, but, because I love all of those people too. So, but the question is this tribute going to be something that's going to just be a, hey, we pat ourselves on the back because we sang some Prince songs? Or is it going to be something that is going to open people up to the legacy of Prince? And I mean, I have to say, sadly, I think it's going to be more the former, except for those people who might tune in for the Gary Clark Jr.'s, the Miguels, the H.E.R.s and whatnot, and be like, oh, wow, those sound really cool. That's great. Let's do that. So there's that. Or it's just for me. It's for me and it's for people like me who are already into Prince. And it's just like, hey, if you like Prince already, go ahead and come and, listen to us sing Prince songs. So that's cool. But what I did, though, is I took some time last night and I decided to go through and make my own set list. I wanted to share that with you guys today because there was the opportunity for so much more, I think, to be done that would branch out of like these central albums. But also, I think even a couple of the song choices could have just been different, even if you were to stick with the same albums. So I'm going to share my set list with you guys now. And then when I do that, I want to know what you think. Like, what do you think about my list and what would you have on your list and whatnot? So let me X this one out, hide that. And now I'm going to share mine here. So this one's mine. So I have mine starting with Let's Go Crazy with her and Gary Clark Jr., and I have them backed by The Revolution. I would want The Revolution out there for the Let's Go Crazy. It's partly their song. It makes perfect sense that they would have been a part of that. And I'm actually completely fine with opening a show with Let's Go Crazy. Let's do that. I love it, right? I would cut Nothing Compares to You. Just because I would really want to stick closely, and I say that later on, I would want to stick closer to Prince songs and not necessarily songs Prince wrote for other people. So I would say cut Nothing Compares to You and instead have John Legend do Money Don't Matter Tonight, or possibly, and this was a suggestion from Darlene Nisi, she had said he should do The Dance. And I was like, ooh, The Dance is actually way better. So I'm going to give that one to Darlene Nisi and say The Dance would probably be better. But if he did The Dance, I would probably move that to later on in the show and not make it like a song number 2 sort of thing. I would move Juanes off of 1999 and give him Te Amo Corazon. Actually, it would be really cool if he did something like he sang part of it in English and maybe part of it in Spanish. I think that would be pretty cool. I've been listening to a little bit of Juanes lately to just kind of, brush myself up on it. And, it's not bad, actually. I think it's pretty cool. He's nice. Common, I don't actually know what song he actually ended up doing, but I thought of like 2 good songs that he could do that would be both kind of higher energy, would be either Days of Wild or possibly Days of Wild most likely is what I would probably push it to, even though I love but I think Common, it would be like that positive, rap thing. I think that would be wonderful. Pop Life and Darling Nikki, completely fine with the Foo Fighters still doing that. The Foo Fighters actually covered Darling Nikki on one of their albums or one of their B-sides, or I've heard it many times. And I heard that their rendition of Pop Life was amazing. Like it was like the highlight of the entire show. So I'd be like, you know what? Let's keep that. Let's keep Pop Life and Darling Nikki. Foo Fighters, you can just stick in your lane. I think it's great. Then I would have her come out instead of the Beautiful Ones, even though I heard that she did a really cool job with that one. I would make it Ballad of Dorothy Parker. And I think the biggest thing for me with Ballad of Dorothy Parker is that it's such an iconic song for Prince that I feel like it needs a good go, because Erykah Badu did Ballad of Dorothy Parker when they did the BET tribute, and it wasn't good. Like, and that's not to say that Erykah Badu isn't talented. She's totally talented, but her rendition of that song just wasn't that great. So I would have loved to have had somebody else come out and just like, bam, knock that song out of the park. I think it would have been wonderful. Then I would have given Miguel Future Soul Song. The reason for that is he did I Would Die For You, which is good, but I think Future Soul Song with Miguel's voice, he could even add like some rock into it. Like I could actually see Miguel really rocking that song out. I think that would be amazing if he did that. Then Gary Clark Jr. The immediately when I heard Gary Clark Jr. was going to be part of this tribute, I was like, I hope that they give him 5 women. The fact that they didn't doesn't surprise me, because 5 Women is such a lesser known Prince track. And yes, I did say that I was going to stay away from tracks that Prince wrote for other people. I know I'm breaking my own rules, but it's just such a cool bluesy song that I think fits Gary Clark Jr. so well that oh my God, he would have knocked that out of the park so well. And I would have loved to have heard it. So that's just me personally. Beck doing Raspberry Beret. Yeah, totally. Beck does a great rendition of Raspberry Beret. I would have loved to have heard him do a different song, but again, I don't want to take out the 80s stuff, like all of it entirely. We need some 80s stuff in there because that is when he I just want it to only be 80s stuff. And you already see that I have like a nice mix in here. I'm trying at least. Then I would give the bird to Morris Day and the Time. The thing about Cool, and this is just my personal thought on it, the thing about Cool is that it can run long. So if it's a time thing, I would likely just give them the bird. They did do Jungle Love the last time that they did a tribute to Prince, so having them do the bird makes sense. What would be really cool is if he had done, you know, Gigolos Get Lonely 2 or something to that effect. That's a whole other thing. We'll see. But probably limit the time to just a single song just to be safe. Like, it's cool that they were there, and I would actually probably bring them back out to help, you know, other people in their sets, like have Morris Day jump on this one and that one, have Jerome come out, have Jelly Bean come out, stuff like that. I think it would be cool. But what I would say is I would probably limit them to one song, especially since we're kind of throwing in some different things. Then if it were Earth, Wind, and Fire, I would have them do Big City. Now, Earth, Wind, and Fire would do Big City amazingly, but if it's only one person from Earth, Wind, and Fire, I think that might change it a little bit. If it was just Philip Bailey, and I heard that he sang in his falsetto the entire time and that it was actually really good, instead of Adore, I would probably give him In This Bed I Scream. But if it was the full band, I would make it Big City. Prince loved to do Big City at concerts, and it was done in concerts years before it was ever on an album, which is really, really cool. St. Vincent doing Controversy, you know, it's weird. None of the reports have said if that was any good, but I kind of like St. Vincent, and I like the idea of them doing Controversy, so I probably would leave them doing Controversy. The next one on the list was Manic Monday, and it was Susannah Hoff and Chris Martin doing Manic Monday. And again, I would just strike that. It's not one of Prince's like best songs or whatever. Instead, I would give Chris Martin with his like, he has a good voice. Like if he's got the right song, got a good voice. I would give him Somewhere Here on Earth. And then if they wanted to, then they could like roll that into like medley-ish into a duet with Susannah Hoff doing Arms of Orion. So here's my thing here is that I'm really trying to stick with like the people who were there and the people who participated. I'm not like throwing brand new people in or anything like that. I'm saying like the people who were there, I think that it would be cool for them to involve these people in a different way, doing different songs as opposed to like taking people out. Like I want to try to keep everybody who was there. I would cut Mountains, and that just hurts to say because if you guys watched my Prince brackets, like Mountains, I believe won the Prince Madness brackets that I did. Really just because it was so parade heavy, and like it's like a bunch of parade and a bunch of Around the World in a Day. I would cut it out just because you'll also see I'm throwing musicology in at the end. So I would cut Mountains. I'd stick with Princess doing Delirious. I'd be fine with that. I think that Princess is cool. I'm actually really interested to see their involvement in the show. So I think that would be really, really cool to see what they did, and if it goes off as well as I think it does, because I've seen some performances from them. So again, I'm not striking people out. I would still keep them there, and they do kind of specialize in kind of the 80s stuff. So yeah, stick with the Delirious. I'm good with that. Then Sheila E. and the Revolution, because again, they're there already because they probably did some backup for Delirious. Sheila E. and the Revolution doing America, that makes sense. She did do America on her last album, so it makes sense to include that because she's got a really cool rendition of it, which I actually really like her version of it. Just saying. Then it makes sense to end the show on Purple Rain, right? And what I would do though is instead of it being Mavis Staples and the Revolution, I would have Mavis Staples come out. I would have Miguel do that duet with her. And you can make it a duet, but like I would actually really like to hear the meshing of their two voices. I would have Gary Clark Jr. on the guitar, probably doing those like really good guitar solos. I'd have Dave Grohl on drums, just because it's always fun to have Dave Grohl on drums, regardless of what you're doing. And I would actually just love to just see like all of that spiral outward from Purple Rain, which was kind of the pinnacle, you know, of Prince fandom and stardom, and that makes sense to end, you know, have a big show there at the end. That's the end of the set list. And then I get what they did with the original. The original encore was "Baby I'm a Star," because back in the '80s he would end it on "Baby I'm a Star," and he would, you know, get everybody else on the stage, and they would just all like jam out with "Baby I'm a Star." But what I would like to see is if they did it with musicology instead. Again, you end it on a big note, Purple Rain, pinnacle of stardom, but then you're like, yeah, but guess what? He was like super funky, and here's musicology. And if you ended it on musicology, you could do a whole lot with that, especially since that song just in itself like pays homage to some of the greats that were on the stage, but also is there to like give the funk to the new people. So anyway, that's my set list. I had a lot of fun kind of going through and figuring out like I'm listening to those artists and like, what song would be good for them? Not, hey, I have this 80s song, who wants to sing it? But like, listen to each performer's voice and be like, this song fits them perfectly. Let's have them sing this song. And it might not be perfect. This is just my ear, what I hear. But if this was the show instead, I think that the response would be completely different to what it is right now. And basically right now online, there's a big fight between the people who are like, I think we need more diversity in what is in the show. And then the other people who are like, shut up, the 80s were great. And it's like, yes, the 80s were great. But if this is going to be, you know, because this is kind of like the huge tribute, right? I don't even know if they're going to like do any more tributes after this one, because they're going to be like, well, we did it. It's done. We have finished with the big tribute. It's going to be an interesting kind of conversation to see what happens afterwards. Because just like, again, the reporting of what it was and like how it went off and like the reception and whatnot, it has not been great. Even for the people who are, you know, claiming that the 80s were the best and everything, they're like, I mean, you know, it's really just, you know, 6 hours and whatnot. Or I'm just 6 years of, you know, albums. But, you know, I mean, that is what it is. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to watch it, and I am going to watch it when it comes out on TV. I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm kind of a sucker for these sorts of things. But I really do think that it could have been better. I think it could have been better. Yes, definitely Rabbit 80s Prince fan would have loved it. Rabbit 80s Prince fan would have loved it if they came out and then they sang Purple Rain for 2 hours. So that's a whole other thing. But anyway, I wanted to share my set list with you and how it could be really, really cool. And, you know, you tell me. I think that, you know, that's kind of whatever you guys think, I guess, is going to end up being, you know, what ends up happening. But anyway, I like my list. I like the original list as well. Like, the song list as it is not bad. It's just not varied. And I would have loved it to have been more varied. So let me know about what you guys think of my set list versus the original set list in the comments, obviously. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and bell notification, Patreon, and, you know, all the junk. Don't forget to do all the stuff, become a YouTube member and all that. You know, it's been really cool. Just, I've been seeing all of the comments kind of go by, and I haven't addressed them all because I really kind of wanted to stay on task today. You know, because I have a topic that I'm discussing. It's not just a general live stream. But I do want to go ahead and say that there are t-shirts available on the down low. Go below the video, there should be t-shirts, and there's a link that'll bring you to the full thing, the full store and whatnot. Go check out the t-shirts, because I know a lot of people have been asking me about t-shirts and stuff. This is not one that I designed, so there's not there. So there you go. But yeah, so there you go. Go check out all of that stuff. And yeah, put any questions that you might have for me down in the comments. I'm not going to make this one a Q&A live stream today, but, you know, I think it's awesome. And, you know, I appreciate you guys so, so much. And may you live to see the dawn. Love you all. I'm now hitting stop, but it doesn't stop immediately. It's going to like do a thing where it